What's indeed going on, Jeromes? We're back. We're doing Q&A live stream version this week. Thank you very much for everyone who submitted questions. Also, thank you so much for everyone who has donated to my daughter Margaret's fundraiser. We're off to a fantastic start. Here are the deets. So the school's trying to raise 25 dimes, and it's going towards the park again. Although it went towards the park last year. So again, this thing better be like the greatest theme park ever on school grounds. There you go. Doing field trips and STEM stuff. So goal for Margaret's is 1K. We're very well on the way. Both donations from the Jeromes as well as in life family and stuff like that. So it's great. And also all Venmos and all super chats through next Wednesday. That's the 18th, right? Yeah. We'll go straight to the school fund, and we're going to match it up to 1K. So thank you very much for everyone who's donated so far. Venmo link is down below. Super chat is right there. And if you don't have those, we'll work something out. Just shoot me an email, andy@purpleftw.com. There we go. So getting into Q&A. Connor Hatman. Something I don't think gets brought up enough is how bad Byron Murphy has played so far. You think we move on from him after this year? Oh, he signed a 2-year deal. And, Murphy has been put in some bad spots, but also he hasn't really stepped up, and that's kind of unfortunate to see. And you see the talent, outside of his back injury last year, and he was a second-round pick for a reason. And I think it's just about Murphy getting settled, and I do think that part of it is, the Vikings' lack of pass rush at times, where it's weird. So the Vikings' pass rush has been a lot like its pass protection, where it's like good and then bad. Like good, bad. No, it's the opposite. It's the opposite of it, where it's like bad, good. Where the offensive line is good, bad, good. That sort of thing. So I do think it is part and parcel not being able to consistently get a pass rush. Murphy will be fine, especially when he operates from the slot. But we'll see. Caleb Hogan. Andy, I'm a freshman in high school, and I've been a diehard fan ever since me and my grandpa went to the Minneapolis Miracle. I have your podcast on in my car every morning. Thank you. I love listening to all your videos. My one question is this. If we finish the season from anywhere from like 6 to 10 wins, which is what I figure we'll do, which mid-first... I don't like when the formatting gets messed up on these. Mid-first round pick would you want the most? All right, so... I understand that people want to be all in for Caleb Williams. I don't think that's going to happen, frankly, because I think this roster is too talented, and with the schedule, I think the Vikings will accidentally win 6, 7, 8 games, somewhere in there at least. But I love me some Michael Penix Jr. Like watch Washington tonight against Oregon. Like Washington, Penix. He's out there dialed in, man. And I really like Penix when he was at Indiana, when he was starting as like a true freshman and stuff, and he just didn't have enough talent around him, but dude was a dog. Like he was out there fighting, he was out there dropping dimes and stuff, came back off that ACL, and he's got good size, even though people always poo-poo on left-handed quarterbacks, except I don't see much of an issue there, but I think I really like Penix. I think Bo Nix has progressed a lot this year. Again, people are always sort of like against Bo Nix because of what they saw at Auburn. He's night and day different quarterback from when he was back on the Plains. Shedeur Sanders, I don't even know if Shedeur Sanders comes out. Where I know that people are going to shat on Shedeur because they either don't like his dad or they don't like his attitude. But I mean, Shedeur does have the traits. He does have the live arm. He does have the mobility. He does have the leadership and intangibles. Where I know people say like, oh, well, he's flashing his watch. His teammates love him, and at the end of the day, that's what matters to me. And Sanders tape, you almost have to throw part of it out, where his protection is so bad. Like he has the worst offensive line in FBS, and you have to take pretty much everything with a grain of salt back there. But Sanders, that was a historic implosion, though. Like. So I had Colorado -11 because I bet him early, and also had under 70. Like how do you lose after being up 29-0? JJ McCarthy, again, when you're betting on traits, McCarthy, I like his size. I like that he has an NFL caliber arm. He's just in a run first offense, but I mean, Gopher fans saw up close and personal. Like JJ McCarthy, I think has a chance to be a very good NFL quarterback. Then you got Ewers. I mean, Travis, Jaden Daniels, I think, is underrated. Cam Ward isn't even on this list. I like him a lot. So I mean, even if you're not in Stratosphere, even if you're not in the Williams or Drake May sweepstakes, I do think that wherever the Vikings draft in the first round or even day 2, they're going to be able to find a quarterback that they're going to feel comfortable with. So that's why I'm not sweating. Where it's like, if this was just a barren wasteland draft, like say this was I'm trying to think back, was it 2013 when it was like EJ Manuel and Geno Smith were. Actually, that's a bad example because there wasn't even like one good quarterback. So just think of 2011. So 2011 had Cam Newton, Christian Ponder, Blaine Gabbert, Jake Locker, that whole thing. There was multiple quarterbacks taken in the first round just because of the quarterback tax, but Locker, Ponder, and Gabbert, they just weren't going to be it. But Cam was the guy. So this is not the Cam Newton draft, where maybe it is the Cam Newton draft and that Caleb Williams is clear 1-1. But it'd be like if it's the Cam Newton draft, but then also the rest of the 1983 draft. So you'd have, actually, 83 is a better analogy because you got Elway, you got Marino, you got all the other quarterbacks that were taken in the first round too. So I'm not sweating this one. That's why, again, if it was a one quarterback draft, I would be all in. I mean, hopefully the Vikings play hard and the good guy and the young guys play well, but end up with one. This ain't that case, man. It isn't. Even though Caleb Williams is going to be good, man. Drake May is going to be good. Penix is going to be good. There you go. See you next up. Travis Linton, love the channel. Thank you. Watch you daily. Do you really think we can turn around this year? I strongly do. Beat the Bears skull. Keep up the good work. Hey, thank you. I do think that the Vikings will turn this mother around. So winning at Chicago against the Bears, that is key. Beating the Packers' ass, yes. Whatever happens against the Niners happens. But like we pointed out, like weeks 8 to 14, I mean, the Vikings can make some hay there, even though 4 of the games are on the road. Like, who scares you? Like, are you scared of the Packers? No. Falcons? No. Saints at home? I mean, Saints' defense is great, but is Derek Carr. Broncos, obviously not. Bears? No. That might get flexed out of Monday night. Also, they need to get rid of they need to flex Vikings-Broncos out of Sunday Night Football. They need to do that. And then you got the Raiders game. I ain't sweating that. Nah. Justin Miller, love channel and positivity. Thank you. It's very refreshing to hear someone who isn't complaining about this team all the time. Well, I feel like I don't consume a lot of other like channel media, and that's not because of like feeling superior and high and mighty and stuff. It's more lack of time because I got 3 kids. But also like I don't want to ever be accused of like sampling ideas. I want all my stuff to be homegrown and organic, but I feel like people tend to go negative and just have hot takes just because that's what's traditionally been the things that sold. Shock jocks and sports talk radio, and everyone's a bum, fire everyone, trade everyone, the quarterback is always to blame. I feel like that's easy. I feel like that's tropish, but sports, like life, is a lot more nuanced than that. And I don't know, like I think we're just generally a positive person to begin with, and also I'm always focused. See, this comes from the Belichick, drafting and scouting. Like, what can the player do for the team, not what can't he do? All right, so I understand Lewisine has been rather disappointing, and first round pick, especially when you could have had. Especially when you could have had Hamilton in the first round. I understand that. But focusing on what he can do. Like, is he a solid special teamer? Yes. Is he a solid backup? Yes. Is he the heir to Harrison at strong safety? Likely. So focus on that as opposed to boo. Also, at the end of some videos, you say, that's it. That's what's that reference to? So it's a reference to the movie The Departed, where I forget the guy's name, but one of Costello's henchmen, he gets arrested, and Matt Damon's talking to him in the interrogation room, and Matt Damon's like, is that it? Is that all you told him? And the guy's Irish. He's like, that's literally, that's what that's from. It's a very deep cut reference. Next up, The Departed is one of the more underrated movies out there. I would say The Departed and The Town are 2 of the more underrated movies. I know that Of course, Scorsese won an Oscar for The Departed, except that was more of a Lifetime Achievement Award. But yeah. Next up, Justin Strollenberg, score from Netherlands. What up? I was going to say something in Dutch, except I got nothing. How do you manage to stay this positive? I am as well, but this is mainly because of your vids. I don't know. Like, I feel like sports are meant to be fun, and I know some people say, like, hey, well, I can just be negative about my sports and have a positive life. I feel like it can really bleed over. Like you know, like you have friends or family who, whenever your football team loses, like they're miserable, you can't talk to them on Wednesday if they lose on Sunday. So I don't know what that is, man. But I'm always sort of upbeat. I always look at the glass half full, of preferably with an Americano. And that's about it. We're Netherlands. So Ajax, Johan Cruyff. There you go. But I don't know what it is. Like I've always had the mentality that things will get better, or we or I will overcome things. And I don't know, like that's not really something that was like instilled in me. It's just something that sort of developed, and I think it's a good attitude for life. It's like no matter what life or a higher being or whoever puts on your plate, like you can handle it. Like they're never going to give you anything that you can't handle. Kyle Langstrom. If things continue to regress, I'd really like to see what we have in Scene, Booth, and Osma. Yes, if this thing does go tease up, I would love to play the young kids as much as possible. And even if the Vikings don't trade Kirk, like if this thing goes completely wonky towards the end of the season, put in Jaren Hall. See what you got there. T-Rag. This season, I've become a bigger fan of Caleb Evans. Think he's our number one corner by the end of the year. Also, Blackman seems okay. Any shot he'll be starting caliber soon. I really like Blackman. I really like the attitude that he has. And a lot of fans shat when the Vikings drafted him, but as a quasi-USC fan, he was the only good defensive player. And that continues. USC's defense is atrocious, but I loved his attitude. I thought that he was actually good at Colorado when he was there too, and he was highly rated by all the analytics. And he's a guy that cornerbacks make mistakes, except I feel like Blackman learns from his. And with Evans, I love a Caleb Evans. I'm just rooting he could stay healthy. And I mean, outside of two plays this year, the busted Devonta Smith play as well as the Josh Palmer dropped interception touchdown play. I mean, Caleb Evans has played very well this year. And also with Murph sort of being whatever, I actually do think that Murphy is Evans is cornerback one right now. WebJ. Scroll from UK. Awesome channel. Thank you. Always my go-to for Vikings updates. I'm curious, what's more likely in your opinion? Cousins gets traded or Cousins gets an extension? Again, I'm not saying if this is right or wrong. I get I get shot a lot as the messenger. I think it's way more likely that he gets extended. And just given ownership's desire for stability and also the desire, again, maybe it's not seeing the forest through the trees, except they want to win games, this year and in the short-term future. And yeah, finding your quarterback of the future is important, except I think the Vikings, the whole competitive rebuild, I think they're going to try and have their cake and eat it too. I honestly think the Cousins will be extended 1, 2, maybe 3 year. Well, if it's a 3-year deal, it'll be one of those window dressing ones where it's actually a 1 or 2 year deal. But maybe they make it 3 just for adding void years or cap wise. But also, I think that say Cousins gets a 2-year extension, I think that they still will draft a quarterback in the first round or a minimum day 2. I think the Vikings are going to try to thread the needle and have everything. So I think that's what's happening. I don't think Kirk gets traded because I don't think that there's not the market for it right now. Like, I don't think the Falcons and the Jets will trade. And absent, like, Brock Purdy getting hurt or, Dak getting hurt or, Tua going down, I don't see a clear-cut trade spot for Cousins. And I don't see him really waiving his no-trade clause. I just don't see that. Next up, Planes and Gains. Oh man, I was told that there would not be reading involved. Oh, that's the whole thing. All right. I really think all the blame is being placed on Kirk because we were 1-4, and all the blame or success always goes straight to the quarterback. Well, Kirk didn't really get credit for the 13-4 last year, but in this case, it's not Kirk's fault. True. The putrid defense and ridiculous turnovers are. Yes. Kirk's been balling for years. People are just mad because he isn't flashy and isn't Mahomes. Yes, I think that does have a big part of it. Plus, I mean, Kirk. So fans' opinions are very slow to change because I feel like a lot of fans, well, I think it's just human nature to be stubborn and dig in your heels when you have an opinion and new information comes in or things change and you don't want to be seen as a flip-flopper. Like, it's very much an ego thing where Kirk Cousins, when he got here, I guess his contract was fully guaranteed deal, 3 years, $84 million, was a large impact on the salary cap, and it did preclude the Vikings from doing things. And Kirk Cousins, frankly, was slightly above average, 18, 19, and he was completely terrible the first 6 games of 2020 before the bye. But since the bye in 2020, he's been playing really well. Last year was probably the best season of his career, and this year, even though, he has four interceptions. Which interceptions were on him? All right, so week 1, 4 interceptions. Week 1, KJ gets the ball rest of the way at the goal line. That's not on Kirk. Then you had the deflection against the Chargers at the end of the game from Hawkinson. That's not on Kirk. The pick 6 was on Kirk. Pick 6 was 100% on Kirk. And then the last one where his arm got deflected because Ed Ingram didn't block his guy against the Panthers. That's not on him either. So, so he's always got 4 interceptions. He's got all those fumbles. How many of those fumbles were because an unencumbered pass rusher came in and just completely dislodged the ball? Like, no one's going to hang on to that. Anyways, I just don't see why fans want to move on so bad. If we don't remember, before Kirk was carousel of quarterbacks and it was awful. Next season, draft a quarterback, let him sit for a year or 2, and hand over the team when he is ready. Throwing a rookie out in the fire right away is unfair. I think having Kirk for 2 more years would be so beneficial. It gives us a chance to win whilst letting the rookie sit and develop behind. No brainer for me. Yes, I actually think that's exactly what's going to happen, but people have been trying to get rid of Kirk since 2018, and I think people are just entrenched in that, and it's sort of a confirmation bias where Kirk can do no right, but every single minuscule mistake that he makes is like, oh, see, I told you. And I know that it swings the other way too. Like, we like to consider ourselves relatively neutral when it comes to the Kirk Cousins thing, and when he does well, we praise him. When he does bad, we poo-poo on him. Conan Billy Bone. Just curious, but what can we expect in terms of draft picks for trade 99? If a team is really desperate, I think you can get a first-round pick. Even though he's got an expiring contract, I think whatever team trades for him, I think it would be with the expectation that they would extend him. So it wouldn't be so much a half a season mercenary deal. So I think first-round pick is where it starts and ends. Toe Nibbler. How do you think Jefferson's injury affects his future with the team? Does it make him more likely to stay or leave? I don't think it really has much of an effect. And I've said this a bunch, and I truly believe it where I don't think the money is the issue. I mean, the money's there. I mean, the Vikings will pay. They're not trying to nickel and dime him. I think what Jefferson's holdup is that he wants to know what's going to happen at quarterback. And Kirk is his guy. Like, win, lose, or draw, Kirk has been his man throughout the season. And I don't know if JJ wants to throw his hat in and sign like a 3, 4, 5-year extension. You could have any high-drafted rookie quarterback that you want, but that's uncertainty. And, Caleb Williams can't miss, but we've seen can't miss prospects miss before, or Drake May, or Penix, or whoever. I think JJ wants to know who the hell is going to be throwing him the ball before he inks up. And it could be a spot where JJ is just like, hey, if Kirk signs an extension, if you sign Kirk to an extension, I will sign that extension. Where maybe JJ just wants to roll with the devil you know versus the devil you don't. I don't blame him because think about it. Like, if Kirk leaves or JJ signs his extension, Kirk leaves, and even if the Vikings draft a quarterback high, like, what if he stinks? Like, what if he's ass? And then JJ is spending a chunk of his prime, the thick THICC of his prime, with substandard quarterback play, or he has to force his way out of town, and then he looks like the bad guy. No. So I understand where he's coming from. Ryan Edwards up. Aloha, Andy. What up? If the Vikings manage to get at 4-4 before the trade deadline Halloween, do you see them trading Ezra and Daniil Hunter along with KJ for more draft picks 2024? No. Like, hell, even if the Vikings are 1-7 at trade deadline, I don't think that they just give guys away. I think that they look for value And it also has to be weighed into like compensatory picks as well. But remember, those don't come into play until 2025 for next year's free agent cycle. So, I mean, even if the Vikings are butt cheeks at the trade deadline, I don't see a fire sale for nothing. I don't see them pulling a Denver. But if they get good value, they get good value. And the other side of the coin, like, hell, if they're 4-4, 3-5, I mean, if they get good value for like Ezra or KJ, with JJ coming back, I think they would do it. Yeah. Mr. Payday, what would you rather do? Keep Kirk and draft early for defense and trenches on both sides of the ball, or draft a quarterback high and trenches later? I would keep Kirk. Depending on the board, I would draft a quarterback at minimum the first 2 rounds, but also throw everything along the defensive line. Like that's the inconvenient truth, where the offensive line has actually played well. And also, if they keep Reisner and have him replace Ezra, they're good to go. But the defensive line has been just a mess for the last couple of years. And you could say it's part of scheme change, it's part of this, that, or the other thing. But, I mean, the Vikings need to get some dogs along the defensive line. They don't have them right now. Big D, what do you think of the idea of not having a coin toss before overtime? If you win the toss and defer, the other team will get the choice at the beginning and start overtime. I really have strong opinions. If you want to go like baseball, the visiting team gets the ball first. I think that's fair. Ian, do you think Cam Akers at any point this year will be RB1? I think we'd be better with Akers, Madison, and a 60-40 split going forward. Maybe not RB1 per se. Yeah, absent, knocking on all the wood, a alien buck. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh. She likes drinking my coffee, which it kind of stinks now because now I have to like cover everything. Hey. Oi. There you go. But I do think that they need to get Akers involved more, especially as a receiver. He's just got a little bit more juice, a little bit more burst than Madison, and he's good to go there. Also good to go. So plug in the fundraiser again. My daughter's doing her school fundraiser. So toss a little something in the Venmo, toss a couple bucks in the super chat. Everything goes to that, and we're matching up to 1K through next Wednesday, 10/18. You guys are the best. I've been very generous so far, and it just blows me away every single year, man. There you go. Next. Actually, need to moisturize. Try to drink a lot more water lately. Also, this isn't sponsored, but electrolytes been really good, man. Get the watermelon electrolytes. Let's go. All right. Let's hear. Cody's nuts. It's starting to feel like we're setting up for a strategically bad season with all the rumors going around. Shall we embrace it if it does get torn down to rebuild? I don't think that the Wolves would ever sign off on that. Yeah. I feel like if Kwesi had his way, the Vikings would have completely tore things down last offseason. He would have cut every veteran contract, and they would have bottomed out and, I don't know, took Bryce Young this year. But I feel like ownership, like, they want to keep butts in the seats. They want to be competitive every year. And you could say it's like, whoa, they're just happy going 500 and stuff. Well, I mean, it's good business. It would be. So you got to understand from their perspective as well. But I don't think strategically it's in that often. But, I mean, if they're asked at the trade deadline, who knows? Look, a skull from Barcelona. What up? I'm a big Vikings fan, born and raised in Catalonia. That's right. Ooh. Just like Pep Guardiola. Let's go. And I have learned a lot about football with your videos. I really love the content that you do. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you. This is a non-football question, but I was willing to come to Minnesota to see a live football match in 2024. So I would like to ask you, do you recommend any place to visit during my trip? You recommend me any good place to eat as well? All right. So I always tell people who are visiting the Twin Cities, see the mall. It's kind of weird because our family, we live very close to the mall, and so it's not like a big thing. Like, we'll go, I don't know, once a month to walk around, or go to that Korean fried chicken place or whatever. But people from out of town, like, they're blown away. It's like, how big is this thing? Where it's just like, it's literally just our neighborhood mall. It's kind of funny, man. But yeah, see the mall. Downtown St. Paul, I like a lot. Going to Lower Town, there's a lot of great places there. The Walker Art Center is great. Minnehaha Falls is good. The lakes, depending on what time of year. Oh, if you come in fall, that's sort of whatever. Well, early fall, lake. They renamed the lake, Beskitima, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's good. And I always say just like Nicolay Mall. Look, there's a ton of great bars and restaurants down there too. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I mean, if you're here early in the season, early in football season, you can catch a Twins game. There you go. Or later in the season, catch a Wolves game, which is always good. Restaurants wise, I mean, can't really go wrong with Manny's. Can't go wrong with Manny's. Zelo is a really good Italian restaurant. We were just at, which is downtown. Spoon and Stable, if you get a res, I mean, that's really fantastic. I mean, Gavin Cason's just on one, man. Yeah. And also like Red Cow is fantastic. Black Sheep Pizza, Blue Door Pub. There's a lot of them. There's just there's a lot of really good Minnesota adjacent places here. Benedum Klein. I do think Addison will realize what needs to be done to keep this season alive and become the Viking savior. I think that he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think that he's going to come in. I think Addison has this alpha wide receiver one cocksure attitude. I think that he is not afraid of the spotlight. I think that he is going to come in and just be a dog. I think that he is going to prove. I think if you caught him in an honest moment, I think he's like, I can do this. Like, hey, JJ's my guy, and he's wide receiver one. I'm going to prove that I'm a wide receiver one too. I think is what he's going to do. Oh man, this live stream's going long. Wish Kirk was more mobile, but does he have moments when he moves around? Don't you agree? Yes. Like the shovel pass is called back. Why don't the coaches emphasize that a bit more on Kirk since he can move, obviously? I mean, Kirk is underrated his movement, and Kirk's pocket awareness had gotten better over like the last year and a half. I feel like it regressed a little bit the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, Kirk, it's always funny when he runs, but Kirk can move a little bit. Traveler, I think you mentioned that you play in a couple fantasy leagues. How well do you usually do? I think I win like, I actually went through and calculated this. Like historically, I've won like 63% of games. Where I mean, that obviously doesn't guarantee you championships and stuff, but I usually compress it down. Like right now, I'm in 4 leagues, which is the most I've been in for the last couple of years. Usually, it's been around 2 or 3. It used to be like 8 or 9. But relatively well. Like we'll try and win 1 championship out of 4. I feel like that's not unreasonable. Kyle Engstrom. Also, I agree the Vikings pick where they pick in the draft, but really need to start hitting on the first 3 rounds, especially way too many average players to bust have been picked as part of this team and the reason the roster is met, which is fair. Where you look at the Niners, and they have the best roster in the league, and props to John Lynch and whatnot, and even they've missed. Like the Trey Lance trade was horrifically bad. Even though I think they didn't really give Trey a chance. And also they missed on Solomon Thomas up at 3. So they missed on, and also they haven't had a first round pick the last 2 years, and they didn't draft until the 3rd round this year. But yet they still, what happens is that they've hit on mid and late round picks. Like, Warner was the 3rd round pick. Kittle is a 5th rounder. Greenlaw is a 5th rounder, I believe. Obviously Brock Purdy as a 7th rounder. So, being able, or Hufanga's a 5th rounder. So, they've been able to fill out the roster with studs, both in day 2, day 3, and that can compensate for missing at the top of the draft. And the Vikings, including the Spielman years, I mean, they've been missing, especially on mid and late round picks. Guys that should have been contributing just aren't. Or like, remember that famous 3rd round from a couple years ago, where it was Wyatt Davis, Kellen Mond, Chaz Surratt, and Patrick Jones 2nd. Like, you had 4 third-round picks, and 3 of them are gone. And Patrick Jones 2nd is, whatever. Drew Smith. Surprise trade candidate for the Vikings. Hawkinson. Nah. Actually, surprise trade candidate, Marcus Davenport. Since he's on a 1-year deal, I could see them flipping him. Also, how many good years do you think Brian O'Neill has left in him? 5. Yeah, Warp. He's still coming back from that Achilles, but I think that he could have a Lane Johnson adjacent type career. Yeah. Jay Granger, Vikings. For onside kickoffs, why have kickers never tried to kick the damn ball as hard as humanly possible to the closest guy from the opposing team? That's a dang good chance. The kick will bounce off that guy, be a live ball for everyone to pick up. That's the water boy strategy. I like that. Where I feel like teams have gotten too good at covering onside kicks, so I think that something needs to change. Like whether it's lining up for the onside and then just popping it up behind the first row and trying to get it there, or literally just trying to kick it off one of the guys' faces. They should do that. Or no, they should replace it with the 4th and 15 play. That got carried. It's spooky season, so curious if you have any horror movies you're a fan of. Keep Skull alive. That's right. Not really. Like I'm not squeamish when it comes to that, but I also like horror movies and just my thing. Well, I did like the first Saw movie. I think there's like 87 Saw movies now, but the first one is good with like Carrie Elways and stuff like. See, Mark Wahlberg's brother, Donnie Wahlberg, was in the second one, right? But the first one with the twist, that was good. That was pretty good, man. Other horror movie. I thought that Paranormal Activity was good, mainly because I had a huge crush on the chick. I don't remember the actress's name, but she was super cute and super amazing. Yeah, other than that, nah. Candyman as a kid. Like, it would be so stupid. Like, we get a group of us together, we watch Candyman and get scared out of our minds. Terry Todd, I think is his name. Yeah. Osama been smoking. What's a full list of what you think next year's draft class should be? I think it's super early to discuss like specific names, but in terms of positions, like even positions is a little bit too early because you don't know what's going to happen in free agency. But I mean, quarterback of the future up there. Defensive line, hammer that thing. Cornerback, wide receiver 3-4. Yeah. Rainy day. What scenario does Kirk make his way back to the Vikings next year? I think in most of the scenarios. Could we see a 2-year deal and build the trenches in the draft instead of draft high quarterback? I think they're going to try and do all three. I really think so. The DSP 29. Hey, would you think if we get a high draft pick, we'd go after O-line instead of quarterback since we drafted Jaron Hall? I don't think specifically O-line because at the top of the draft, like in most drafts, the top offensive linemen are tackles, whether it be Olafountry from Penn State or whoever. But obviously the Vikings don't need a tackle since they got Darisaw and O'Neal. So I don't see them spending a first-round pick unless like Cooper Beebe rises up. I mean, it's possible, I guess. And what would you do at the trade deadline if you're the GM? Really depends what happens next 3 games. Like if the Vikings are 2-6, I would certainly entertain offers. But Vikings 3-5, 4-4, I might be buying. I might be buying at the trade deadline, baby. Let's go. Brandon Hill. What is the actual game plan if the Vikings do get the number 1 pick? Is it Caleb Williams season, or do we trade out to fill other holes? I would just take Caleb Williams. I mean, it would be tempting since you get a bonanza. Like you would get 4 first-rounders because, remember, during the draft, you can unlock a 4th year of draft picks down the line. So I think you might get 4 first-round picks plus change. But I would just take Williams. Blazerhead. Would you rather only be able to eat grilled cheese for the rest of your life or only be able to eat chicken noodle soup? Well, it depends. Like if it's like grandma's chicken noodle soup. But if it's canned chicken noodle soup, I mean, it's sort of a toss-up. But, I mean, like grandma's homemade chicken noodle soup where, I mean, the stock is like roasted from the bones and it's got fresh vegetables and whatnot. I feel like you can survive off that. I mean, that's the whole thing about soup too. Is like, people say, when you're sick, you eat soup. But that's the nutrients leached out from the bones and the stock. Whether it's chicken, beef, pork bones, like all of that nutrients and vitamins and stuff, coming through. I mean, that's where it's like if you get really good pho, like if you get really good authentic pho where that broth has been cooked for 24, 48 hours. I mean, that's where you get that deep, rich flavor, and that's where you get that nice versus like something from a can. Yeah. Abdul. If JJ doesn't want to extend his contract because he wants a team where he can get a ring more likely, when would be a good point to trade him? All right, if JJ 100% doesn't want to resign here, trade him this offseason. And trade him with the eye of moving up and getting your quarterback of the future. Mr. Raining Fire, do you think Kevin O'Connell will be running the ball? Or try to prove he can pass the ball without JJ? Obviously, they would do both. I think that they're going to run the ball more. I think they're going to play a lot more heavy personnel. I think you could see 2-3 tight end sets with Munt. I think the Vikings are going to sort of become like an old school meat and potato team. And it's going to be like a Zimmer wet dream out there. It'll be good. Jack Hall. Which Vikings player do you think could get traded that could surprise people? Mentioned Davenport. I don't think Ezra would be too much of a surprise since he's in a contract year. Jordan Hicks, I guess, would be a bit of a surprise. He's played really well, but he's older and on a contract year. I said Jordan Hicks to the Bills would make a lot of sense since they lost Milano. I don't know, Cam Beasley, maybe? Yeah. Executing me. Hey, love the video on the channel. Thank you. Do you think the Vikings should draft defense in the 2024 first round? I hope that Michael Penix or JJ follow them in the second round. Skull. I think that would be a great plan. Although I think Penix and McCarthy could both end up in the first round. But it's going to be close. Travis Murphy. Who's the most underrated quarterback in the upcoming draft that the Vikings could pick if they decide to go a different route with the first round pick? See, underrated. So again, I don't have Cam Ward listed, but I like his game a lot. I think Jaden Daniels has a bit of the it factor. I liked him back at Arizona State. I know people like Hartman. I was never a big Spencer Rattler fan. I just never liked his personality or the way that he interacted with his teammates. But of course, that can be just chalked up to immaturity, and maybe he's getting things together with Beamer with the Gamecocks this year. Sure. I liked Van Dyke, but also I don't like Van Dyke. It's one of those spots. I think Ewers is fun. I think Ewers is a lot of fun. I think Ewers is a bit of like Brett Favre 2.0 on the field. So, I don't know. Next. Rob Z, if we lose to the Bears, does it say a lot about us this season? Yeah, I think it does. Where this is literally Thermopylae. Like, this is the last stand. Like, the Vikings have to win in Chicago. Travis Murphy, with the Vikings playing Chicago next and then San Fran, I see them very well going 1-6. Do you think it's possible a loss to Chicago would send them trade Hunter and other assets? I think that, yes. But I think it would take a loss to the Niners to cement it. Like, if they fall to 1-6, I think all bets are off. I mean, anyone who's not nailed down, I think, could be moved, aside from JJ. Pull Up reacts. Why do you think the Vikings are not giving Scene a larger role in the Flores defense? I think a large part of it is that Beasley is playing amazing. Metellus is playing amazing. And we've talked about before, Scene and Metellus and Beasley, like, they don't overlap a lot in terms of the type of safety they are. But, I mean, Scene is going to replace Harrison. I think that was the plan. I think if Scene doesn't break his leg in London last year, I think Harrison is probably cut and Scene takes over this year. But with Scene's injury, they delayed that a year. I think that's what's happening. Michael Converse, what do you think of Mekhi Blackman so far? Stud. Fantastic value at the back end of day 2. I think Mekhi Blackman's going to be really, really good. Duke of Awesomeness, what kind of compensation would you accept trading Daniil for? First or a second and a third? Okay. Travis Linton, trust bro like Cam Beasley says it's going to be a movie. Like how we fight back from 1-4 reach our potential. Here we come. 13-4, wanting some more. That's right. Kanye West, biggest fan. Imagine this: Vikings tank and trade JJ and Daniil, get 4 first in return, draft the quarterback of the future, and use other draft picks to build up the defense and O-line. Sign Tony Pollard in the offseason to fix the run game. I mean, I wouldn't not be okay with that. Although I'm not giving up JJ, pretty much under any circumstances. Christopher. Who would you say is a top 5 likeliest trade candidates if we lose again this week? Not saying I want them to lose. Skull Vikes. I would say top 5 likeliest: Daniil, Ezra, Jordan Hicks, Marcus Davenport, KJ. Enclave World. Do you think there should be? I don't think Kirk is going to waive his no trade clause. I just really don't. Do you think there should be more eyes on refs nowadays? The last few years, it seems like has been an increase in game-changing BS calls. I have this conspiracy theory that the NFL doesn't mind these controversial, subjective calls because it keeps people talking about the game. Like, I mean, we're still talking about the garbage calls that the Chiefs got to go their way against Sunday, and they played another game, and they had more BS calls go their way. So I actually think that, in a weird way, the leagues like these controversies. They like these conspiracy theories. I mean, because you could just go to complete instant replay on everything, like including like DPI and stuff like that, and it would fix it. They go to like the VAR soccer model, but they don't, and they won't. Because I think that they like a little controversy. I think they like a little gray area. Vikes. Says Caleb Williams, which other quarterbacks in 24 will be day one starter? Also, a favorite non-quarterback in the draft, Cooper Beebe. Cooper Beebe, Jared Verse, the Notre Dame defensive tackle. Name escapes me. He's something the third, where he's a sawed-off shotgun of a player. Like he's short, but lack of height actually helps you in the trenches because low man wins. And I think that I mean, I'm all about just getting some dogs along the defensive line in this year's draft, man. But let's see, quarterbacks who can make it to the first round. Let's see here. Williams, May, locks. I think Penix, McCarthy, Ewers could be first rounders. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the first round, maybe 6. Like this could be 1983, just because of the quarterback tax. Guys get pushed up the board. Competitive rebuild or full-on rebuild? Competitive rebuild. Nathan Bella, was your best food to get at US Bank Stadium for a first-timer? So I don't go to a ton of games, so things may have changed, but I did go to the Taste of US Bank Stadium like a couple years ago. I forget where to get it, but they have like really good smoked chicken nachos. They had a really good, it was almost like a banh mi. It was like a roasted pork belly sandwich, which was really good. They got a Nashville hot chicken sandwich, which was fantastic. So check those out if they're still there. Kyle Engstrom, Skull from Erie, Pennsylvania. What's up? Is it clear that Alexander Madison isn't the guy? I love him as a person. I think he does offer some ability, but we can move forward with him as a running back. One, thoughts? I think that the first 2 games were not indicative of what this run game can be. I think Madison showed games 3 and 4 that he can be a dude. But I think that Madison Akers is a more than adequate running group. Same thing if you sprinkle in a little bit of Chandler, a little bit of Kinkene. There you go. Lucky Bang, $2 super chat. Maybe we're just tanking for Caleb Williams now. Nah. Maybe, but nah. Zaragoza. Are the Jeromes worthy of seeing your high school football picks and or highlights? I got a couple pictures, except they're on the laptop, but I can bring them in. I don't have any highlights. Like, I scored 1 touchdown in my high school career. It was on KTTC, Rochester's NBC affiliate, but that tape seems to be lost to time. Yeah, we ran 44 pop, and I caught it. No big deal. Scully, trade for Mike Tomlin and fire both Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell. We need some dogs on this team. Never gonna say no to Mike Tomlin, man. Even though I do like Kevin O'Connell, like Mike Tomlin is the guy. John Marley. What's up with the drop passes? Madison, Hawkins, and KJ first was fumbles. Now we're just receiver dropping balls too. It's just like mental mistakes over and over and over again. Brady, be realistic. What's the percentage that we actually end up with Caleb Williams? I'd say 5-10% chance. I'd say it's relatively low. It's probably around 5% because even if the Vikings go completely pear-shaped, I think that there's enough talent on this team to accidentally win 6, 7, 8 games, which I know will make people upset, but it's the truth. And I mean, the Panthers are ass, the Bears are ass, the Broncos are completely mailing this one in. So and the Cardinals, even though they've been feisty, I mean, I think the Vikings are obviously a superior team to the Cardinals. So I think at best the Vikings will end up with, I don't know, like the 7 pick somewhere in there. Next up, we're close to the end, right? Knuckles, should Kwesi trade for Patrick Surtain? Yes. I love PS2, man. Plus, PS2 is a winner, and you can tell that it just pains him to be in Denver right now. User, I don't understand why people want to blow up the roster. The only games that were able to have to buy. Niner. Yes. Kirk's been playing well. The Vikings have shot themselves in the foot. Again, the Vikings could easily be 4-1, maybe 5-0, maybe 3-2. But they keep beating themselves. But the schedule does clear up. Cody Pierce. Not so much of a question, but don't you wish the Minnesota pro sports clubs players truly understood what championship anything would mean to the state? I understand they love to win too, but come on. Yeah, it just does seem like there's a cloud over most of these franchises. Aaron Davix, Frank Clark, he's probably going back to Kansas City. Blazer head, Gummy Bears or Starburst? Starburst, come on. And lastly, E-Jams. The defense is horrible. They're not even fun to watch this year. This from a fan since '87. I don't know, like they're way more fun to watch than last year. Like, yeah, they could beat play sometimes. Yeah, sometimes they can't stop the run, but they can blitz, even though their pass rush efficiency rate ain't that great. But at least they're just not sitting back and taking it. That's all. But that's it. Ooh, super extendo Q&A. Thanks for everyone who tossed in questions. Also, remember the kids fundraiser, Venmo, Super Chat. Shoot me an email. We'll work something out. You guys are the best. Blown away by your gratitude and charity so far. Love it. Love this community, man. But that's it. Till next time. Skull Production Value.